Hi everyone, hello English readers, and welcome to this new live read along of July 2024. I'm Lydie Bureau and I'm an English teacher in France. I'm also the founder of Lydie's Book Club, in which I host live readings of adaptations of classics or contemporary novels of English literature. And once a week, I meet the members of the book club in a live workshop via Zoom to discuss the chapters of the book that we are currently reading. And in this book club, I also tend to prioritize books that are written by women. And this month, we're doing something new this month, because we're not reading an adaptation of a classic or a contemporary novel, but we are reading the original text, the actual book. And we are going to read Daisy Jones and the Six, written by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So if you are a C1, you have an advanced level in English, then and if you love rock music and the 70s, then this book might be right for you. Over the next 3 weeks, I'm going to host 11 live reading sessions on Instagram. So make sure you follow me if you want to interact live with me. And you unfortunately, sorry, if you're not allowed to, if you cannot attend those live reading, then you can still rewatch the live readings, the videos on YouTube, on my channel here, or on Spotify podcast, Read in English. And along with those 11 live reading sessions, as I mentioned before, I will host workshops on this very book. So 3 workshops are planned around the book Daisy Jones and the Six. And this way you will be able to, in these workshops, the idea is for you to practice your speaking skills, express your views on the novel, on the characters, and improve your English. That's going to be a way for you to practice your English and be part of a community of book lovers and English readers. And for that, you have to become a member of the book club, because it's a private Zoom session and it's hosted on Saturdays, on 3 different Saturdays. You can find all the dates on my website. If you click on the link to join, you will find all the information for you. And once you subscribe to the book club, then you will have a private access to all the live sessions from previous workshops, and also on Daisy Jones and the Six, if you're not available for the live, but that would be a shame. So the idea is for you to be able to be there. So that's the best way for you to practice your English. But of course, schedules and timings are not always easy and flexible, so you will still have access to those lives whenever you have time to rewatch them at your own pace. And yeah, the great thing is, when you become a member of the book club, then you will have access to all the workshop that I've done before for free. So that's just amazing. Also, I'm excited to announce that this week, the live workshop on white teeth, which is aimed at B2 upper intermediate level, will be available on my website to purchase. If you're not sure to become a member of the book club, and if you want to maybe have a taste or see what it's like to be part of Lydie's book club, then you can just purchase this workshop as a one-time payment, and you will have a private access to white teeth live workshop. For example, if you're interested in this live workshop, or you can have access to Jane Eyre. So basically all the live workshop sessions are accessible as a one-off payment for you. So you just pick the book that you're interested in, and you can watch at your own pace the videos, and also you will have an access to the live reading sessions that are also accessible on YouTube, but it's just in one place, very easy to find everything. So today we are going to read the first section of the book, which is page 7 to 16. And if you'd like to know more about Taylor Jenkins Reid, the author of this book, then I encourage you to watch the podcast episode 22, an introduction to Taylor Jenkins Reid and Daisy Jones and the Six, available on my YouTube channel as well and on Spotify. You will get quite a nice overview of Reid's work, but also on the novel and what the story is about if you haven't read the book already, or if you haven't watched as well the TV series, because this book has been adapted on screen and TV series available on Amazon Prime Video, and now we're going to start reading the book at the book club. Right. So I hope that you have a nice cup of tea with you, because it's going to be quite a long session today compared to the one that I've done before, because the adaptations are quite short chapters. So, and the number of words is much lower than the normal than a usual novel. So ordinary, I would say, than an ordinary novel. So this session might take some time. We have about roughly 10 pages to read. This novel is written as an oral history, in an oral history style. That means that we have each character, it's presented as a dialogue, you see. So you've got this journalist or this reporter that is interviewing this band, and they all give their own vision or their own version of the memory of that time in the band. So it's quite unusual. It's not very common to write this way, so it's going to be quite interesting to read in this kind of format, and a narrative as well. So okay, let's get started. So Reid dedicates the book to Bernard and Sally Haynes, an honest love story if ever there was one. Daisy Jones and the Six. Author's notes. So here, I'm starting here. This book is an attempt to piece together a clear portrait of how the renowned 1970s rock band Daisy Jones and the Six rose to fame, as well as what led to their abrupt and infamous split while on tour in Chicago on July 12, 1979. Over the course of the last 8 years, I've conducted individual interviews of current and former members of the band, as well as family friends and industry elite who surrounded them at the time. The following oral history is compiled and edited from those conversations, as well as relevant emails, transcripts, and lyrics. The complete lyrics to their album Aurora can be found at the back of the book. And we'll discuss that at the end of this live reading sessions. While I have aimed for a comprehensive approach, I must acknowledge that this proved impossible. Some potential interviewees were difficult to track down, some were more forthcoming than others, and some, unfortunately, have passed on. Those people have died. This book serves as the first and only time members of the band have commented on their history together. However, it should also be noted that on matters both big and small, sometimes accounts of the same event differ. So that means that people on the same event, people are going to have different versions of that same event. The truth often lies unclaimed in the middle. I underline this quote because this phrase, I find it very beautiful. And actually, we are going to discuss in the workshop what it means, what it represents, what it means and represent for you. Or what do you think the author wants to say by this phrase? Okay, so that's the first part, called The Groupie Daisy Jones. And we are in the 1965. So it's from 1965 to 1972. Hey, hi. Hello, Adriano. Welcome to this live. I hope you're well. Hope you're doing well. Okay, let's start. Daisy Jones was born in 1951 and grew up in the Hollywood Hills of Los Angeles, California, the daughter of Frank Jones, the well-known British painter, and Jeanne Lefebvre, a French model. Daisy started to make a name for herself in the late 60s as a young teenager on the Sunset Strip. Elaine Cheng, biographer, author of Daisy Jones' Wildflower. Here's what is so captivating about Daisy Jones when before she was Daisy Jones. You've got a rich white girl growing up in LA. She's gorgeous, even as a child. She has these stunning big blue eyes, dark, cobalt blue. One of my favorite anecdotes about her is that in the 80s, a colored contact company actually created a shade called Daisy Blue. She's got copper red hair that is thick and wavy and takes up so much space. And then her cheekbones almost seem swollen. That's how defined they are. And she's got an incredible voice that she doesn't cultivate, never takes a lesson. She's born with all the money in the world, access to whatever she wants, artists, drugs, clubs, anything and everything at her disposal. But she has no one. No siblings, no extended family in Los Angeles. Two parents who are so into their own world that they are all but indifferent to her existence. Although they never shy away from making her pose for their artist friends. That's why there are so many paintings and photos of Daisy as a child. The artists that came into that home saw Daisy Jones, saw how gorgeous she was, and wanted to capture her. It's telling that there is no Frank Jones piece of Daisy. Her father is too busy with his male nudes to pay much attention to his daughter, and in general, Daisy spends her childhood rather alone. Thank you. But she's actually a very gregarious, outgoing kid. Daisy would often ask to get her hair cut just because she loved her hairdresser. She would ask neighbors if she could walk their dogs. There was even a family joke about the time Daisy tried to bake a birthday cake for the mailman. So this is a girl that desperately wants to connect. There is no one in her life who is truly interested in who she is, especially not her parents. And it really breaks her. But it is also how she grows up to become an icon. We love broken, beautiful people. And it doesn't get much more obviously broken and more classically beautiful than Daisy Jones. So it makes sense that Daisy starts to find herself on the Sunset Strip, this glamorous, seedy place. I take a little break. Daisy Jones, now speaking. Singer Daisy Jones and the Six. I could walk down to the strip from my house. I was about 14, sick of being stuck in the house, just looking for something to do. I wasn't old enough to get into any of the bars and clubs, but I went anyway. I remember bumming a cigarette off of a roadie for the birds when I was pretty young. I learned quickly that people thought you were older if you didn't wear your bra. And sometimes I'd wear a bandana headband like the cool girls had on. I wanted to fit in with the groupies on the sidewalk, with their joints and their their flasks and all of that. So I bumped a cigarette from this roadie outside the Whiskey A Go-Go one night. The first time I'd ever had one. And I tried to pretend I did it all the time. So she smoked. She had cigarette. I guess this is a very American expression. Gather. I bummed a cigarette. So I had a sip of it. Yeah, a smoked cigarette. I held the cough in my throat. And what have you? And I was flirting with him the best I could. I'm embarrassed to think about it now. How clumsy I probably was. But eventually some guy comes up to the roadie and says, "We got to get inside and set up the amps." The amps is the amplifiers, I guess. You know, the music, you know, like sound equipment. And he turns to me and says, "You coming?" And that's how I snuck into the whiskey for the first time. So the whiskey is is a venue, music venue. And she's let's remember, she's 14. I stayed out that night until 3 or 4 in the morning. I'd never done anything like that before, but suddenly it was like I excited. I was a part of something. I went from 0 to 60 that night. I was drinking, smoking anything anybody would give me. When I got home, I walked in through the front door, drunk and stoned, and crashed in my bed. I'm pretty sure my parents never even noticed I was gone. I got up, went out the next night, did the same thing. Eventually, the bouncers on the strip recognized me and let me in wherever I was going. The whiskey, London fog, the riot house. No one cared how young I was. Greg McGuinness, that's another interviewee, is former concierge, the Continental White House. So from a hotel, a house. Yeah, Continental White House is probably a hotel, some sort. Or from Hotel or maybe a residential block of flat, something. Yeah. Oh man, I don't know how long Daisy was hanging around the White House before I noticed her, but I remember the first time I saw her. I was on the phone, and in walks this and in walks this crazy tall, crazy skinny girl with these bangs and the biggest, roundest blue eyes you ever saw in your life, man. She also had this smile, huge smile. She came in on the arm of some guy, I don't remember who. A lot of girls around the street back then. I mean, they were young, but they tried to seem older. Daisy just was, though. Didn't seem like she was trying to be anything except herself. So naturally, she looked younger. After that, I noticed she was at the hotel a lot. She was always laughing. There was nothing jaded about her, at least when I knew her. It was like watching Bambi learn how to walk. She was really naive and really vulnerable, but you could tell there was something about her. I was nervous for her. Tell you the truth. Tell you the truth. There were so many men in the scene that were into young girls. 30-something rock stars sleeping with teenagers, not saying it was okay, just saying that's how it, not saying it was okay, just saying that's how it was. How old was Laurie Matix when she was with Jimmy Page? 14? And Iggy Pop and Sable Star? He sang about it, man. He was bragging about it. So here it's quite interesting to see how normalized it was for men to date very young girls and underage. I mean, like they were not even 18 and they were double the age, even triple, because they were in their 30s, those men's. And how normalized it was and how not shocking it was. So um nobody would say anything. And these vulnerable young girls admiring those rock stars just went with it. And now it seems so shocking. This now is would not be acceptable at all. When it came to Daisy, I mean, the singers, the guitarists, the roadies, everybody was looking at her. Whenever I saw her, though, I tried to make sure she was doing all right. I kept tabs on her here and there. I really liked her. She was just cooler than anything else happening around her. Now, Daisy talking again. I learned about sex and love the hard way. That man will that men will take whatever they want and feel no debt that some people only want one piece of you. I don't think there were girls, the plaster casters, some of the GTOs, maybe they weren't being taken advantage of. I don't know, but it was a bad scene for me at first. I lost my virginity to someone that doesn't matter who it was. He was older. He was a drummer. We were in the lobby of the Riot House and he invited me upstairs to do some lines. He said I was the girl of his dreams. I was drawn to him, mainly because he was drawn to me. I wanted someone to single me out as something special. I was just so desperate to hold someone's interest. Before I knew it, we were in his bed and he asked me if I knew what I was doing. And I said yes, even though the answer was no. But everyone always talked about free love and how sex was a good thing. If you were cool, if you were a hype, you liked sex. I stared at the ceiling the whole time, waiting for him to be done. I knew I was supposed to be moving around, but I stayed perfectly still, scared to move. All you could hear in the room was the sound of our clothes rubbing up against the bedspread. I had no idea what I was doing or why I was doing things I knew I didn't want to be doing. But I've had a lot of therapy in my life now, and I mean a lot of therapy. And I see it now. I see myself clearly now. I wanted to be around these men, these stars, because I didn't know how else to be important. And I figured I had to please them if I wanted to stay. When he was done, he got up and I pulled my dress down. And he said, "If you want to go back down to your friends, that's all right." I didn't really have any friends, but I knew he meant I needed to leave. So I did. He never talked to me again. It's so terrible to see that she is so how much she's left on her own devices. Her parents just don't care where she is. They don't even wonder where she spends her time, and especially with those older people. And then at 14, probably 15, she was taken. This guy took advantage of her. Clearly, how can you at 14 be? How can you be able to know what you're doing when you're 14? This is just not understandable. That it's completely understandable that she was too young for this, and but she did want him to reject her. She looked for attention, for affection, and everything. So it's terrible to have to that she had to go through this at such a young age. And you understand why she did therapy after that. Okay, let's continue. Now, a new interviewee, new character here, Simone Jackson, a disco star. I remember seeing Daisy on the dance floor one night at the Whiskey. Everybody saw her. Your eye went right to her. If the rest of the world was silver, Daisy was gold. So it's interesting to see to see the perception of people, external people who have that view on her, whether it was this disco star or the concierge or the concierge who, well, the concierge had kind of an understanding of what was going on a little bit. He was sad for her, but you can see that some had a glamorous perception of her. And Daisy. Simone became my best friend. Okay, and Simone is the character that we're going to see. She's going to be a recurrent character as well. Simone. I brought Daisy out with me everywhere. I knew I never had a sister. I remember it was the Sunset Strip riot when all of us went down to Pandora's and protested the curfew and the cops. Daisy and I went out, protested, met up with some actors, and went over the Barney's Beanery to keep partying. After that, we went back to somebody's place. Daisy passed out on this guy's patio. We didn't go home until the next afternoon. She was maybe 15. I was probably 19. I just kept thinking, doesn't anybody care about this girl but me? And by the way, we were all on speed back then, even Daisy, as young as she was. But if you wanted to stay skinny and be up all night, you were taking something. mostly bennies or black beauties. Most else, those were probably the names of those speeds, drugs. Bennies or black beauties. Daisy. Diet pills were an easy choice. It didn't even feel like a choice. It didn't even feel like we were getting high at first. Coke too. If it was around, you took a bump. People didn't even consider it an addiction. It wasn't like that. It's really interesting to understand the context here of the 70s, how normalized it was to take drugs, like you would drink coffee. Simone. My producer booked me a place in Laurel Canyon. He wanted to sleep with me. I told him no, and he bought it for me anyway. I had Daisy move in. We ended up sharing a bed for 6 months. So I can tell you firsthand that that girl never slept. I'd be trying to fall asleep at 4 in the morning, and Daisy would want the light on. So she could read. Daisy. I had pretty bad insomnia for a long time, even when I was a kid. I'd be up at 11 o'clock saying I wasn't tired, and my parents would always yell at me to just go to sleep. So in the middle of the night, I was always looking for quiet things to do. My mum had these romance novels hanging around, so I would read those. It would be 2 in the morning, and my parents would be having a party downstairs, and I'd be sitting on my bed with my lamp on, reading Dr. Zhivago or Peyton Place. And then it just became habit. I would read anything that was around. I wasn't picky. Thrillers, detective novels, sci-fi. Around the time I moved in with Simone, I found a box of history biographies on the side of the road one day, up in Beechwood Canyon. I tore those in no time. I tore through those in no time. Simone. So that here again, you've got an idiom here, or an American expression. I tore through those. So she devoured those books in a short time, basically. And now Simone talking. I'll tell you, she is the entire reason I started wearing a sleeping bag. But then, and she laughed, but then I kept doing it because I looked chic. A sleeping mask, sorry, sleeping bag, a sleeping mask. Yeah, because of the light. Daisy. I was living with Simone for 2 weeks before I went home to get more clothes. My dad said, "Did you break the coffee maker this morning?" I said, "Dad, I don't even live here." So you see how invisible she is to her parents. It's crazy how they don't even notice that she doesn't even live there anymore. And she's 16. She's 7. No, not even 15. Simone. I told her the one condition of living with me was that she had to go to school. So basically, it's her friend who is raising her. Daisy. High school was not easy for me. I knew that to get an A, you had to do what you were told. But I also knew that a lot of what we were being told was bullshit. I remember one time I was assigned an essay on how Columbus discovered America. And so I wrote a paper about how Columbus did not discover America because he didn't. But then I got an F. I said to my teacher, "But I'm right." And she said, "But you didn't follow the assignment." Simone. She was no bright. And her teachers didn't seem to really recognize that. She was so bright, sorry. She was so bright, and her teachers didn't seem to recognize that. Daisy. People always say I didn't graduate high school, but I did. When I walked across the stage to get my diploma, Simone was cheering for me. She was so proud of me. I started to feel proud of myself too. That night, I took the diploma out of its case, and I folded up, and I used it like a bookmark in my copy of Valley of the Dolls. Simone. When my first album flopped, my record label dropped me. My producer kicked us out of that place. I got a job waiting tables and moved in with my cousin in Leimert Park. Daisy had to move back in with her parents. Daisy. I just packed up my stuff from Simone's and drove it right back to my parents' place. When I walked in the front door, my mom was on the phone smoking a cigarette. I said, "Hey, I'm back." And she said, "We got a new couch." And then she just kept on talking to the phone. On the phone, sorry. Simone. Daisy got all of her beauty from her mother. Jeanne was gorgeous. I remember I met her a few times back then. Big eyes, very full lips. There was a sensuality to her. People used to always tell Daisy she looked just like her mother. They did look similar, but I knew better than to tell Daisy that. I think one time I said to Daisy, "Your mom is beautiful." Daisy said to me, "Yeah, beautiful and nothing else." Daisy. When we got kicked out of Simon's house, that was the first time I realized that I couldn't just float around living off other people. I think I was 17 maybe, and it was the first time I wondered if I had a purpose. Simone. Sometimes Daisy would be over at my place, taking a shower or doing the dishes. I'd hear her sing Janis Joplin or Johnny Cash. She loved singing Mercedes-Benz. She sounded better than anybody else. Here I was trying to get another record deal, taking voice lessons all the time, really working at it. And Daisy, it was so easy for her. I wanted to hate her for it, but Daisy's not very easy to hate. Now Daisy. One of my favorite memories was Simone and I were driving down La Cienega together. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the right pronunciation. I'm sorry if I torture some names, if I mispronounce some names, some words in English, sorry, or here in probably Spanish. Together, La Cienega, probably. Together, probably in my BMW I had back then. They've got that huge shopping center there now, but back then it was still the record plant. I don't know where we were headed, probably to Jan's to get a sandwich, but we were listening to Tapestry and You've Got a Friend came on. Simone and I were singing so loud along with Carole King, but I was really listening to the lyrics too. I was really feeling it. That song always made me thankful for her, for Simone. There's this peace that comes with knowing you have a person in the world who would do anything for you, that you would do anything for. She was the first time I ever had that. I got a little bit teary in the car listening to that song. I turned to Simone and I opened my mouth to talk, but she just nodded and said, "Me too." Hmm. And that's a sweet kind of reference here to I don't know, it's a lot of meaning here. Is it kind of a clue to not a clue, sorry, but a reference as well to the Me Too movement, maybe that the author wanted to refer here, or yeah, because the novel was published in 2019, and yeah, Me Too movement had already happened, and it seems to me that there is this sisterhood between these two girls. Yeah, that's yeah, it's something that we will discuss probably in the workshop. Simone, it was my mission to make Daisy do something with her voice, but Daisy wasn't gonna do a single thing she didn't want to do. She'd really come into herself. She'd really come into herself by then. When I met her, she was still a bit naive, but let's just say she'd gotten tougher. Daisy. I was seeing a couple guys back then, including Wyatt Stone of the Breeze, and I didn't feel the same way about him that he felt about me. This one night, we were smoking a joint up on the roof of this apartment over on Santa Monica, and Wyatt said, "I love you so much, and I don't understand why you don't love me." I said, "I love you as much as I'm willing to love anybody," which was true. I wasn't really willing to be vulnerable with anybody at that point. I had felt too much vulnerability too young. I didn't want to do it anymore. So that night, after Wyatt goes to bed, I can't sleep. And I see this piece of paper with this song he's writing, and it's clearly about me. It says something about a redhead and mentioned the hoop earrings that I was wearing all the time. And then he had this chorus about me having a big heart, but no love in it. I kept looking at the words, thinking, this isn't right. He didn't understand me at all. So I thought about it for a little while and got out pen and paper. I wrote some things down. When he woke up, I said, the chorus should be more like big eyes, big soul, big heart. No control, but all she got to give is tiny love. Wyatt grabbed a pen and paper and said, say that again? I said, it was just an example. What your own goddamn song? Simone, Tiny Love was the Breeze's biggest hit. And Wyatt pretended he wrote the whole thing. Wyatt Stone, now, the lead singer of the Breeze, so the former boyfriend, well, guy she was seeing. Why are you asking me about this? This is water under the bridge. Who even remembers? So here we can imagine, it's not said, but here it's implicit that the interviewer asked him about the song, if he wrote the song. Daisy. It was starting to be a pattern. Once I was having breakfast at Banner's Binnery with a guy, this writer-director. Now, back then, I always ordered champagne with breakfast, but I was also always tired in the morning because I wasn't sleeping much. So I needed coffee. Of course, I couldn't order just coffee because I'd be too hamped for the pills I was taking. And I couldn't just have the champagne because it would put me to sleep. You understand the problem. So I used to order champagne and coffee together. It's quite interesting to see what she was having for breakfast at 17, maybe, like champagne and coffee. Okay. And at the place where we served, sorry, and at the places where servers knew me, I used to call it an up and down, something to keep me up, something to keep me down. And this guy thought it was hilarious. He said, I'm going to use that in something one day. And he wrote it down on a napkin and put it in his back pocket. I thought to myself, what the hell makes you think I'm not going to use it in something one day? But of course, there it was in his next movie. That's how it was back then. I was just supposed to be the inspiration for some man's great idea. Well, fuck that. That's why I started writing my own stuff. Simone, I was the only one encouraging her to make something of herself with her talent. Everybody else just tried to make something of themselves with what she had. And final speech of Daisy. And this is the end here. We're at the end of the chapter. This is her last speech. I had absolutely no interest in being somebody else's muse. I'm not a muse. I am the somebody. End of fucking story. It's straight to the point here. Right. So this is the end of the first part of this book. And tomorrow we will read The Rise of the Six. That's the next section of the book. And we will move on to 1966 to 1972. And I hope you enjoyed this live reading and discovering this novel and the story of Daisy Jones here. Of course, if you want to be part of the workshop of Daisy Jones and the Six, make sure you subscribe to the book club membership to have access to the workshop for free. And you also remember, you will also be able to purchase the three-part live workshop of White Teeth on my website store, from tomorrow. Well, this week, this will be available. If you want to be up to date to all the information about the book club, then you can subscribe to the newsletter as well. And this way you'll get an email once the live workshop of White Teeth is available. And there is also the workshop of Jane Eyre. You can find everything on the website store once you click on the link of in the description of this video. And I wish you a beautiful end of the day. That's it for me. Have a beautiful evening or whatever moment of the day you're watching this video. I will see you tomorrow live. So tomorrow it's going to be the 9th of July and we will read the second part, which is going to be page 19 to 39. They're going to be a bit more pages, about 20 pages this time. So it's going to be an exciting new session as well. Bye-bye.